you would think that, like, of course I want to see someone's humanity. Like, of course I want to love the person in front of me, regardless if they buy my product or work with me in some capacity. But to communicate to Maria, hey, I got in this clarity call and so isn't ready, but I think she might be ready in the next year. That is huge, huge, huge win for us, because you could look at it and think, oh my gosh, I lost X amount of money because she didn't sign up. I don't think about that anymore. I think about, oh, I'm so glad that actually she wasn't a good fit for this program, or this wasn't good timing for her. And we can rejoice in that, because I'm not the best fit for everyone. Neither is Maria. Neither is TIS as an entity. And she's going to go off and try to hopefully find something that might be a better fit for her.
Overwhelm, reaction mode, and just keeping up are the old way.
You need real, root-level strategies and practical steps to grow your business or ministry without exhaustion and burnout.
Hi there, we're Anna Saucier
And Meghan Gephardt,
best friends and business consultants who help faith-filled women create sustainable growth through simple strategy with a people-first approach.
Here at Apostolic Fruit, we hope to offer you clarity, support, accompaniment, and healing,
one tiny step at a time. Hello and welcome back to the Apostolic Fruit podcast. Today's episode is one we've been so excited to share with you, because it's not just a story of business growth, but of deep healing, clarity, and sustainable transformation. We're sitting here with Maria Spears Mumaugh and Meghan Elfelt, the co-founders of Intentional Single, a mission-driven brand, program, and community that supports Catholic women navigating singleness and the dating season with hope, joy, and wholeness. If you know them, you already know how deeply they pour into their people. But today we're going behind the scenes. Over the past few years, and especially in the last year of working closely with them, with Meghan and I, they've walked through some really major shifts, and not just in strategy and operations and rhythms, but in how they lead, how they sell, how they rest, how they work together in partnership, and how they honor their capacity in the daily rhythm of running a business. Some of the things we want to share with you are the internal work that helps them show up with more freedom and congruence, the strategy, messaging, and clarity breakthroughs that made their last launch feel so aligned, how they've structured their offers to serve their people more deeply without burning out, and how they're learning to grow sustainably without compromising their mission or margin, and space to live their lives more fully. If you've ever felt the tension between your vision and your bandwidth, or wondered if it's really possible to build a thriving business without selling your soul, this episode will offer both practical hope and permission to lead differently. Maria and Megs, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for having us. Woo-hoo.
Will you please share more than that fancy introduction? Tell us who you are and what you do.
So, like Anna said, my name's Maria, and I have been in the coaching space off and on in various capacities, actually for probably almost 25 years now. I started when I was in college, and actually even before then, but I started in more of the health and wellness coaching and did a lot of women's ministry and worked in the health and wellness space, music, just so many different things over the years. And I did a lot of speaking. And long story short, I ended up getting into the life coaching, mindset coaching space in 2019. And in the fitness world, we always joke that if you're the personal trainer, you're basically a therapist or a life coach. Like, it's kind of the joke in that, because everyone tells you everything. Anyways, and I remember a friend actually saying, you would be such a good life coach. I remember thinking, goodness, no, I do not want to tell people how to live their lives. That feels like way too much responsibility. And she was like, Maria, I think what you think coaching is and what it actually is when it comes to life coaching or mindset coaching is not the reality. And I always say that kind of paved the way for really opening the door for me to step into coaching. And with TIS, with connecting with Meg, she and I were both part of another coaching program and ended up connecting, had a very similar heart for single and dating women. I was very single at that time. And long story short, out of that, and there's a lot more too, but TIS was born. And it's been awesome and it's been hard. And I will shout from the rooftops along with Meghan that Apostolic Fruits at Anna and Meghan have literally changed our lives. They've changed the way that we coach. They've changed the way that we run business. They've changed our personal lives, to be really honest, the way that we show up. They've just changed our way of being. And it's shifted so many things, including our faith life, literally every part of who we are. And I'm so grateful for us to get to be here and to share how transformational this journey with you guys have been.
So I'm the other M. We like to tell our ladies, like, from M to M. So my name is Meghan. And yes, what a fancy introduction, but so poignant, though, and so powerful to reflect on the ways that Anna and Meghan have supported us, specifically in the last year, through a lot. And similar to Maria, I have had such a heart for women and have been working with women, I don't know, for like 15 years in various capacities of mentorship and whatnot. And similar also to Maria, I had so many people tell me, you should be a life coach. And I hated that idea because I didn't really know what it entailed until I really entered into this space and really felt the calling and the mission here to really serve women and live and breathe this space and love it and really feel like this is God's call for me in my life in this season. And when you are in a partnership, you really need to be aligned in your vision. And so having the guidance of Anna and Meghan has been integral to us. We would not be the people that we are. We would not be running our business in the way that serves us in a mental, emotional, physical capacity that we are. We would not have the faith life that we do if it hadn't been for being honestly broken open in some really, really painful, uncomfortable spaces, having really challenging conversations and authentic and honest conversations that opened up so much vulnerability that then opened up strategy and decision making for how do we want to do this that's actually sustainable, because I don't want to sell my soul. And I want to be able to live a life that is centered upon my values while also running a business that helps others grow closer to God. And in order to do that, you have to get really, really clear, and you have to be broken open, and you have to be open to being broken open. And these two incredible women have served Maria and I in more ways than they will ever know.
And those things you describe, thank you, both of you, for sharing about yourselves, not just TS, but you are human beings with histories who have come together in this partnership. And all of those struggles and things that you've shared, that you've moved through, I think it's always important to know that it's not done and that you continue to do it. You know, you all haven't arrived. It's not like we took you there and you got someplace and now you're there, but that you continuing to learn how to do it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you both. And I love how you spoke to just being cracked open and the importance also of being open to that and open to those deeper layers, because we always talk about how we have to go to the root if we really want that longer term sustainability. And because we can strategize at the top level layer, but it's only going to take us so far. And so when we're willing to go deeper, just like the work that you do with women, right? When we are willing to go to those deeper places, the Lord can just do so much more. So it's just been incredible to witness that. And I'd love to hear, can you take us back to about a year ago, or about, I guess last summer when we began this deeper work together and Anna and I started to serve you guys in partnership. What were you navigating in the business, and where were you? What were some of those wrestlings that you were having at the time, or different tensions you were?
Woo!
That was so long ago.
It's wild to think back on that, because we were in such a different space. I mean, we were just at a point, honestly, where we were getting extremely burnt out. We were exhausted. I think it was also because we were so exhausted, there was even some layers of frustration with one another that was bubbling up that we weren't aware of, and we weren't having the honest conversations at that point. We didn't know we even needed to have those conversations. You just think, well, this is just part of it. You just suck it up. And the route we were on, TIS would not have continued at that. Like, it just wouldn't have been able to. That's just the truth. And in that break-in, and it's funny because I think Megs and I were also very resistant to the change, because we knew what had been a quote unquote working, even if it wasn't sustainably working, but it had been working up till then, right? And our brain loves to hang out with what's comfortable, what it knows that feels safe, even if it's not great, right? But familiar is quote unquote safe. We were those people who wouldn't make changes, and we wanted to stay stuck. And I mean, we could laugh about it now, but it was kind of true. Like, We were so stuck in it. Was like we were so tunnel vision. We were just too in our own thing. We always tell our girls in TS is that we all need a coach. We all need someone who's outside of our peripheral because whether we like it or not, we end up getting tunnel vision in some capacity. And at that time we were just very tunnel vision of this is the only way that works that we know of.
Yeah.
And the idea of opening that up felt terrifying.
Yeah. It was like, it has to be this way. Like, there is no other option. Like, it has to be this way, which is so interesting because with all the poking invitational questions that Meghan and Anna led us through along this journey of coaching, it was terribly uncomfortable. And there were many times where I think we probably kind of shut them down. Probably more than once, probably more than 10 times, probably literally over years. But they're so patient and so understanding because, I mean, the reality is if you're listening to this podcast, you have a business and your business is your baby. And your business is something that you're extremely passionate about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be risking the risks that we take when we endeavor to bring something outside of ourselves and into the world. And Maria and I are extremely protective over this space that we've created because it is so special. And no one else is doing what we're doing in the way that we're doing it. And there's something really like otherworldly. There's something kind of divine about that. And at the same time, we dug our little heels in and got really comfortable with like, no, it has to be this way. It can't be another way because we were tunnel vision. And so in the poking and in the beautiful invitations that Anna and Meghan, I remember inviting us into, we had to, I mean, it got to the point where like we had to take an actual break from our business where we were not serving any clients for 2 whole weeks, which was a terrifying prospect and invitation for us. And it felt like we were giving up. It felt like we weren't serving them. It felt like if we paused on content that people would leave, that all of the assumptions and all of the stories that we made up in our mind. And I cannot begin to describe to you that the space that we took away from our business actually served the clients inside our container and actually served those that we were nurturing because they had time to catch up with all of the beauty that we were putting out there in the world. And that was a very, very hard reality and truth to grasp when Meghan and Anna posed it to us.
So hard.
And we probably slammed it right back into their faces. We're like, I don't want to do that. But in so doing, though, the authentic and honest and raw conversations that Maria and I had in our partnership opened up so much fruit. So much fruit to understand how do we continue being sustainable. Also, on a human level, like, what are your needs? Also, what are you loving and what are you not loving in the business? Because I want you to do what you love, but also we're entrepreneurs. So we also have to do some of the things that we don't love. But like, what does that really look like? And I think the fruits of that 2-week break were just immense. And I don't think we saw them immediately, but they definitely trickled in the months that followed.
For sure. I'd agree with that.
I've just been crying this whole time, like witnessing and hearing how you describe the journey that you've been on, and especially the difficulty of the awareness in these places where there's total opposite things. How can we possibly do less and they'll be served more? That's one of the hardest things to swallow.
Because it's so countercultural.
Yeah. And counterlogical,
And counter everything.
Yeah. But we've seen it, and it's beautiful to hear it from you both.
Hey, we've got a quick heads up for you that doors are closing to The Garden on September 10th. The Garden is our program for sustainable business and leadership growth. And this is your last chance to join us before enrollment closes until next year. This is a place for Catholic women ready to grow in a more grounded, integrated way with sustainability, clarity, and peace. So whether you're in transition, discerning where God is calling you, you're building traction and wanting to increase your income stability, or you're scaling up and needing more structure and rhythms to hold you as you grow, The Garden is designed to meet you where you are with different tiers of support and tracks aligned with your unique season. Support begins at $200 a month. Learn more at apostolicfruit.com/garden. And we're here if you want to just talk it through to discern if it's the right time for you. Doors close September 10th, This is our final cohort before 2026.
Yeah, I do distinctly remember that break ushering in some really major conversations between you two and your partnership. That was the time when you were recognizing there were deeper layers there that you haven't opened up together. And it was kind of coming to a head. And I do remember that being very, very uncomfortable. And Anna and I deeply understood because we have also navigated many conflicts together personally that were also very hard. And we continue to do so on an iterative basis as they need to come up. And in supporting you in that, and I think just walking alongside you through those areas of discomfort and then leaning in and just doing that over and over again and continuing to do it all the way up until now, we have just seen and witnessed in you and what we also see in our own experience, which is that conflict can be a pathway towards greater connection.
For sure.
And ultimately freeing. It can be very, very freeing.
So.
And just like those spaces of messy internal conflict that we bring to Jesus ultimately become a place of intimacy, right? Because he can meet us there. That's exactly what happens in our relationship. And especially when we're in a very close partnership and something that, as you described so beautifully, Meghan, in entrepreneurship, this is our baby. And so it's so vulnerable and it's so personal and it's so sensitive in so many ways, right? And then when you're doing alongside another human being, it's even more messy. And that's the reality. It's beautiful. And your gifts are so complementary. And you're able to give birth to something that you would never be able to on your own because you're co-creating it together. And that is so, so powerful. But it also brings different challenges. So yeah, it was just really amazing to hear the way that you described that. And just honoring the immense courage and humility that it took to lean into those conversations together and be open to them and really take the space to hear each other out and hear sometimes the painful things that you needed to share with one another so that you could better understand each other in those places. And then I just have seen, even in this last launch that you had, the way that you were checking in with each other as a partnership. Tell us more about like what that looked like on a day-to-day basis and what has it shifted in the way that you guys interact and the way you collaborate together?
Well, great minds think alike. So we may have just sent the same thing in the mail to each other on maybe the same day because we were thinking of each other without knowing that we were both sending each other a little treat that was the same. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, Maria and I live very healthy lifestyles. And I think this is something Maria and I have been doing what, 3.5 years?
Yeah. 2.5.
2.5 years. Well, we've been collaborating together since January of 21. Yeah. So in our partnership, something that for me is really beautiful is to recognize, like, you're not my enemy. Sometimes it can feel like we can villainize the other, perhaps, or because the workload can feel like so much, especially when it comes to like a big launch of a product. And to really see the humanity of the other person. And so really doing those check-ins of like, did you get your daily walk-in or whatever the goals are of Maria, like really trying to see the humanity and like, what did you eat? Did you eat breakfast? Like, what are you eating right now? Like, oh, do you need to go get a bathroom break? Or, hey, actually, can we hop on our meeting 5-10 minutes? Like, I need to get a walk-in. Do you mind if I'm 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late to our scheduled consistent meeting times every week? And just seeing the humanity, I think, is really important and recognizing that like launch seasons are an absolute dance, that we are both wearing 20 million hats and seeing the humanity of like, okay, I'm going to like send her a little treat in the mail because I want to surprise her and I want to dote on her, which just really sees the humanity because we're in this together. And I can't imagine doing this by myself. And I don't want to do this by myself. I've done solo entrepreneurship by myself and it is lonely and it is isolating and it's so much. It's so much that you put on your back. Like you need support. So whether it's accompaniment with a coach, if you're listening to this and you are a solo entrepreneur and you don't understand the dynamics of a partnership, I'm not saying you need to be in a partnership, but man was never meant to do life by oneself. Like that is such a lie that Satan breathes into our American workaholic culture. And there's a beauty in being accompanied. And so even when I was a solo entrepreneur, I always had accompaniment. And then this little seasons during that solo entrepreneurship that I didn't have accompaniment, those were the hardest seasons of being an entrepreneur because as human beings, we need other people to hold space for us, to be seen, to be known, to be heard in the struggle, because it is hard. Bringing your baby out into the world, this beautiful gift, this God-given mission that God has entrusted to you, whatever your business looks like, is hard. And having someone be able to hold that space for you, I think is so imperative. And so what a gift that I get to do this with another human being that wants my good and sees my good. Is it messy sometimes? Yes. But we're always navigating through it. And then having two beautiful souls of Meghan and Anna in various capacities, because they journey with us in different ways, is also such a gift, because they both give us different invitations. Meghan offers something different than Anna offers us, and it has massively impacted our business as a whole. We can just be here for hours and hours and hours and talk about all of the lives and all the ripple effects of being coached by these two incredible women has gifted to our people, like the baby that we're putting out in the world, like the ripple effects that goes into all of the ladies. I know Maria's just oozing to share more.
It's true. I think there is something beautiful and challenging whenever you are doing entrepreneurship with someone else. It's amazing, though. I think one of the beautiful things that Anna and Meghan bring to the table with an accompaniment is they know what partnership is, and they also know what it's like to do stuff on their own. They know all those different elements of it, but they also bring a deep, radical honesty. And so often I think we are afraid to be that honest with the person, when the reality is like the transparency both of our business and within a working relationship, or any relationship for that matter, actually is incredibly powerful. That's really the only way that anything can ever shift for the better, is that there is a radical honesty and a transparency, because you can't change what you're not aware of. Like what Meg said, if I villainize the other person, it's hard for me to see that, wait, she's my teammate on this. Instead of, wait, no, we're working for the same thing. And sometimes our tones come across in a way that we didn't mean, or sometimes we're making this assumption or that assumption. And I think part of what we've learned through working with you guys has been this process of just ask her, just tell her, just bring it from a place of curiosity. Hey, you said this. What did you mean by that? Rather than we make up all these stories. And it's been beautiful both in our partnership together within this. It's been amazing in our friendship. And it's been amazing to see the ripple effects of that radical honesty and transparency, again, both in our business, even as scary as that is, because it is our baby, and saying, hey, there's another way to do some things. There's another way to do things in our business, and there's another way to do things in our partnership. And everything elevates as a result of that. You guys bring different giftings in this space, but together, it just helps you to flourish on every level. I think especially in the business world, man, we need this. We're such a hustle culture. And the fact that sometimes our partnership literally looks like during launch week, hey, let's hop on 15 minutes after because you haven't gotten your walk and I heard you say that. Or you haven't gotten movement in, or you haven't eaten yet. Or can I take this off your plate for you right now and you go do that? And so there's really a collaboration that ends up happening. But again, each other wouldn't know if we hadn't worked through this space of that radical honesty and transparency. So I think there's just so many things that we do very differently because of having worked with you guys, both in the strategy session and then in our check-ins and in all the different offerings that you guys have here. It's really incredible because it does have the capacity to transform both a business and a working relationship.
I really want to speak into the humanity aspect of all of this, because I think one of the deepest gifts that I received from working, personally have worked with Anna longer than I've worked with Meghan, but both of you have gifted us with this deep understanding of seeing the other person's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, in our Christian and Catholic business circles, not everyone has the understanding of creating a safe space and a safe environment for the buyer, for the know, like, trust factor to be there. Mm-hmm. And we're scared to say the hard things out loud, where our copy isn't honest on our websites and our newsletters. I could kind of give a lot of different examples of what I kind of see out and about versus the invitations that Meghan and Anna have given to us of like, well, why don't you just say that? Like, why don't you just write it? Why don't you just do a podcast episode about it? And we're like, whoa, we could do that?
It's so real.
Permission to do that? And it doesn't dawn on us because we have been conditioned by our society to sell a certain way, to run a business a certain way. And I could just weep because Anna and Meghan, you have given us one of the greatest gifts of actually seeing the humanity of those that we're serving. That in all of the launches, because predominantly what we do is we have a 6-month program and other offers, but that's our biggest offer is our 6-month program. And to rejoice when a gal says that she's not ready, I mean, that is giving somebody so much love and affection for where they're at in their season of life instead of, you need this, you have to do this, you should do this. No, the language is permission, openness, receptivity, not graspiness. And I really want to speak into this because that has been one of the biggest pivots, because Maria and I want to change the world. And we believe that so many women could be massively impacted by what we do. And over the years, we've been pretty graspy because we believe so much in this mission. And I think opening up that space has been really, really hard for us. I kind of think of the analogy of a little kid not wanting to give up their stuffed animal and like finger by finger, knuckle by knuckle. And you would think that, like, of course I want to see someone's humanity. Like, of course I want to love the person in front of me, regardless if they buy my product or work with me in some capacity. But to communicate to Maria, hey, I got in this clarity call and so isn't ready, but I think she might be ready in the next year. That is huge, huge, huge win for us, because at the end of the day, I need to pay my bills. Maria needs to pay her bills. Like, you could look at it and think like, oh my gosh, I lost X amount of money because she didn't sign up. I don't think about that anymore. I think about, oh, I'm so glad that actually she wasn't a good fit for this program, or this wasn't good timing for her. And we can rejoice in that, because I'm not the best fit for everyone. Neither is Maria. Neither is TIS as an entity. And she's going to go off and try to hopefully find something that might be a better fit for her, or grow in another way to actually be open and receptive to, it might not actually serve her if she were to come inside our container at that time, in that moment. And so that just kind of reminds me of this beautiful, beautiful gift that you've given of just transparency and honesty and having morals and having our work ethic be one that is like openness and receptivity, not graspiness and control.
I hardly know what to say. I mean, the thing that hits me the most, that I think is always the hardest to swallow for people, is, like you said, Megs, we can say, oh, yes, of course I want that. I want to treat people that way. But that starts with the inner work. That starts with treating yourself that way and each other. And that's the fruit. It's not the, oh, Anna and Meghan gave us a new strategy of being honest and telling the truth in our copy. No, that's not a strategy. That's something that you did inside first. And then those natural invitations can come out to say, well, yeah, now you get to be more yourself in your marketing because you've made that transformation within yourself first.
I think the word that comes to mind with you is really, it's an interior freedom that then comes out of us into the other, so that everyone has full permission, full freedom to say yes, and full freedom and permission to say no. And I am going to be so happy whatever you choose, because that's what's meant for you in this season. I really do believe that every woman that comes to us, and again, this is our own interior work, I think, to be able to say this, but yeah, I truly believe that every woman that is meant to be in our container, they're going to say yes. And every woman who's it's not right for, yet they're not meant to say yes, right? They are right where the Lord wants them. And that's good. And the Lord is going to take care behind the scenes, underneath the things, and all the things, both in our finances and all those, but being able to give ourselves the freedom and permission, which is, again, kind of tag teaming on also what Meg's talked about, like the humanity part of it, like being that honest, send the email, let's talk about that on the podcast, be that real about it. Because I think sometimes, particularly in the coaching space, I think sometimes there is this idea, again, you need to do business a certain way. You've got to be so professional all the time. And we have these masks that we wear. And the reality is that it's all a little messy for everybody, no matter where they are in the journey, because we're all human, and being human is kind of messy. And that's not a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem that it's messy. Like, Jesus knew what that situation was, and it wasn't a problem. He has space for that. And can we have space for ourselves within that? And I think the other element of that humanity that's been brought is really the space to be. Taking a space, which again has been such a massive transformation for Megs and I, is rather than the hustle, rather than the grit. And we can all be really good at the hustle and the grit, especially as entrepreneurs. Most of us are really good at that. And especially as women, again, we have a high capacity when it comes to doing what you don't want to do because it's got to be done, you know? The problem with that is where resentment builds. That's where frustration builds. That's where burnout. There's a reason that a good 80% plus immune disorders are women, because we are so used to burning out. And that wreaks havoc in our hormones, wreaks havoc in our bodies, it wreaks havoc in our relationships and in our businesses. And that there actually is another way to do that, where you're honoring the fact that we need space sometimes. We need space to be. And it is possible to have the space that we need and build a really successful business and a booming business that impacts millions of people, right? Like you can have that both, and those can both be true. Whereas I think before there's been this narrative that, well, in order to build this massive business to impact millions of people, well, I have to be exhausted, and it's just what it is. It's just part of being an entrepreneur. And so there's this narrative that I'd say most of us, even subconsciously, have bought into, but it wreaks havoc on our health. I've listened to so many podcasts from women entrepreneurs, and most of them, they're sharing how absolutely exhausted that they burnt out on this, they burnt out on that, or this happened. And then you hear that exploded in their relationship, So again, because they miss their own humanity, they also miss their humanity of those around them. And so learning to be in a different way, to show up in a different way from a space of, okay, what's it feel like to actually, something you guys invite us to do a lot. And it's changed our language and our experience of like, what does it feel like in our body for it to actually feel peaceful to do this work? What does it feel like in our bodies to not be stressed all the time because we got to get this email and we are wearing 20 different hats when normally you'd have a huge team to do these things and there's 2 of us, What could it feel like if we were fully supported, right? And that just opens up so much space for creativity, so much space for growth, and so much space to say, hey, there could be another way to do things versus getting in that tunnel vision, which is what Meghan and I had originally. We really did. We had this, it had to be this way. And we've been amazed during our strategy sessions, the way that the Holy Spirit shows up in there. We're like, whoa, didn't know this could happen. Oh my gosh, there's like all this other stuff that we didn't know. But a lot of it does start with a different way of being. And it's really uncomfortable at first because we are so used to being in hustle and grit. And we're so used to having dysregulated nervous systems and to be holding so much in our bodies and never actually taking the time to release that. It will lead to burnout. It will end up in dis-ease in some capacity. Like that's what happens with a body that's constantly holding on. And women in particular, we're very susceptible to that. We are different than men, and that's beautiful and that's amazing. But it also means that we have to do work different than they do because we have different systems in them. We have different nervous systems in them. We have different hormones that work in different ways than they do. And when we don't respect that and honor those differences, I think it causes a lot of issues versus, well, we can actually do this work and we can show up and learn to be in a different way that then impacts our families in a different way. It can impact our workspace different. I mean, Meghan and I coach totally different now as a result of this, like just the way that we hold space is very different, but it's because we've learned, we first have done our own interior work that you guys have brought forth for us. And that deeper interior work has a different way of being, which then impacts the way that we do. And a lot of times we're trying to do in order to be versus be in order to do. And it's a very different paradigm, but it's a life-changing paradigm. And it's one that brings freedom.
We hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take a moment to share it with a friend?
If you haven't already, come connect with us human to human at apostolicfruit.com/connect. When you're ready, we'd love to support you more deeply.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you,
and turn his face toward you and give you peace.